So, one of the big topics this NFL offseason has been whether or not the Bears should have Justin Fields remain their quarterback or whether they should move on from him and draft Caleb Williams. So, I decided to hop into Madden to settle the debate once and for all. Oh, hold on, give me 1 second. Oh, really? Only a 6th round pick? Well, okay then, thank you. Well, scratch that idea. Apparently, the Bears have traded Justin Fields to the Steelers for a 6th round pick. So, this video will no longer settle the debate, but will determine whether the Bears have made the right decision or not. Some rules for this video. Each league will be simulated for 5 seasons. I have created a Caleb Williams for one league and a Marvin Harrison Jr. for another league, since if they would have kept Fields, they were probably going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. I've made both Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. star devs to just kind of make the simulations more fair. I set everything to be taken care by the CPU, so I will have no control over things like free agency signings, trades, etc. I have decided to start the 2 leagues in the regular season. The rosters are currently pretty much up to date with the current free agency, but with me starting in the regular season, the free agents who haven't signed yet will have found new homes, but I don't really have much control over that. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and see if the Bears made the right decision or if they will remain at the bottom of the league.
Okay, so this is the league with Caleb Williams. We'll show Caleb Williams here. I made him a star dev just because Justin Fields is a star dev, and I want it to be kind of even a little bit at least. So, because if I would have made him an X Factor, obviously he would have been a high overall within a couple seasons, and Justin's already been in the league for a little bit. So I was just trying to make it even a little bit. Here are his stats for Caleb Williams. And we can see here they have Swift, and they recently traded for Keenan Allen. So this is updated. So let's just start the simulation, and we'll go to the midway point here, sim to mid-season, and we'll check in on what their record is. We'll check in on how Caleb Williams is doing. And this for Justin's league and this league, we're going to go 5 seasons and just compare after the 5 seasons. If you ask me what I think is going to happen, I think the Caleb Williams league is going to be a little bit better. But as we see here at the midway point, the Bears are 3-4, and they are currently third in the division. Wow, so we see the Steelers actually with the best record currently in the NFL. The Steelers just signed Russell Wilson. A couple days ago, we see the Packers here at 5-1, the Chiefs 7-0, Ravens, Bills, Cowboys, Colts. Bears currently 3-4 and 18th in the league. Not a great start for the Bears in Caleb Williams' first season. Let's check out the stats here for not only Caleb Williams, but we'll kind of see how everybody else is doing. So actually, Caleb Williams is off to not a great start at all. 6 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Not a great start to his rookie season. But he is rushing a lot too. He's got 317 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. DeAndre Swift, no rushing touchdowns, which is interesting. Let's see, Keenan Allen leading the receivers with 22 catches, 3 touchdowns. Okay, so they beat the Packers week 1. They beat the Buccaneers. They got shut out by the Chiefs. They lost to the Broncos. They beat the Commanders, lose to the Vikings, lose to the Raiders. So at the midway point of Caleb Williams' first season here, it's not off to a great start, but let's sim to the playoffs, and we'll see if maybe they can turn it around here. Okay, so the Bears end the season 8-9. The Vikings came out of nowhere. They had a great second half to the season, as we can see. The Lions had a very disappointing season. Honestly, though, 8-9 is not terrible, but as we see, the Chiefs 17-0 for this season. Okay, Cowboys 16-1. Let's see where the Bears ended up finishing. So I think they were actually 18th before. So they didn't really move anywhere. They didn't get any better. They really didn't get any worse. I think they actually were 3-4. So they're pretty consistent from the midseason to the end here. Let's look at Caleb Williams' final stats. Okay, so Caleb Williams actually had a pretty good second half. 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, over 3,000 passing yards. Let's look at rushing. 731 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. So, I mean, from the point of midseason to the end of the season, Caleb Williams has had a pretty good turnaround. Okay, so Prescott wins the MVP. Go to NFC. Offensive Player of the Year, CeeDee Lamb. Offensive Rookie of the Year is Bijan. So Caleb finishes second behind Bijan for Offensive Rookie of the Year. All right, so let's kind of take a look at the roster here and see what Caleb is working with. Okay, so still have Swift. Still got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. This is the rookie that they drafted to help out Caleb Williams. I believe they took in the second round. Still have Cole Kmet. Like I said, they definitely drafted a lot of offensive line in the draft, and then the first 2 rounds they ended up taking, well, not first 2 rounds, but the first 2 picks in the first round, they ended up taking some people on the defensive side of the ball. All right, so I suppose let's go ahead and sim to mid-season of year 2. Okay, so at the midseason point, the Bears are first in the division, sitting at 4-2, which is better than where they were at the beginning or at midseason of last season. The Cowboys are still pretty good, 6-1. The Ravens are up there. The Panthers are coming out of nowhere and being 6-1. The Jets 5-1. Raiders, Steelers, Colts. So the Bears are currently 9th. Okay. They are leading the division. Let's check in on Caleb Williams. Okay, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Not bad. Not bad at all. All right, let's see where he's kind of ranking. So Williams kind of far down on the list, but stat-wise, he's doing pretty good. 8-2, you can't really complain about that. Let's kind of see how his teammates are doing a little bit. Oh yeah, let's check on rushing. So not rushing as much, I don't believe. He's only got 1 rushing touchdown, which I think last season he had a couple at midseason. Keenan Allen again getting most of the receiving work ahead of Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, and Bo Melton. I believe this is the rookie that they took in the second round, has no catches, so they're not really using the rookie that they drafted. All right, so let's go ahead and see. We'll sim to the playoffs and see if the Bears can hang on to being first in the division and making the playoffs under Caleb Williams as being the quarterback. Wow, okay, so the Bears second in the division with the finish of 9-8. After the start that they had at midseason, I thought that they would have a little bit better of a record. They only improved by 1 win from last season, as last season they were 8-9. So let's go ahead and check. Oh, first let's check the standings and see where they ended up finishing. As you see, the Bills here 14-3 with the best record. So the Bears finished 19th. Not a great season. They're above 500 though, in Williams' second year as the starting quarterback. But man, I think that the midseason they were 4-2. So let's kind of see the stats that Caleb ended up with. I mean, stats-wise, he had a great season. For his, it being his second season as the quarterback, 25 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, over 3,000 yards again. Rushing-wise, if I recall, it was pretty similar to last season. As you see here, they kind of relied more on Swift this season, I see. Keenan Allen was the leading receiver. Cole Kmet had a great year. DJ Moore, not a great year. Didn't really target him, it looks like. Or for touchdowns, at least. Bo Melton, Swift. They didn't use the rookie they drafted. But 9-8 in Caleb Williams' second season as the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Let's see if he gets any awards. Again, I don't think he will, but we will go ahead and check. Lamar Jackson is your MVP. Offensive Player of the Year is again CeeDee Lamb. Caleb Williams, we see here 8th for Offensive Player of the Year. For Best QB, he is 5th. So no awards, again, for Williams in his second season. All right, so let's go ahead. Look at the Bears roster. This is the QB that they decided to draft this year. Caleb Williams up to an 85. Still have Swift here. Their receiver room is not looking that great. Still have DJ Moore and the rookie that they drafted from last year. Cole Kmet is still here. Again, in last year's draft, they decided to go very defense heavy. So trying to improve the defense. I mean, we saw Caleb Williams' numbers last season were pretty good, but they still went 9-8. So maybe it is the defensive side of the ball that is hurting them. I suppose we can look and see kind of where they rank in offensively and defensively at the end of the season. So we will see. And let's just sim to mid-season. Wow, and as we see, the Bears are 0-6 at the midway point of year 3 for Caleb Williams. What is going on? So why are they 0-6? Williams isn't hurt. He's also not really improving, but maybe that's because he's a star dev. 0-6. Okay, let's... Caleb Williams has 6 touchdowns and no interceptions, but they are 0-6. Let's kind of compare to the rest of the league here. He's just not getting the amount of touchdowns that you want to see. I mean, because look at like Josh Allen, 18-2. Some like a lot of these. Always we see Justin Fields here, 14 touchdowns, 5 picks, but I mean, he's not getting the numbers that you would like to see. But they are 0-6 at the midway point here. Let's kind of take a look at some other numbers. Swift is being used a lot. Cole Kmet is having a great year. They're not really using DJ Moore. Wow, okay. Well, I suppose let's just sim to the end of the season here and see if they can turn it around. They're going to need a drastic turnaround here in order to be even close to the playoffs, but we will see. Okay, so the Bears end up at 5-12 at the end of the season, which is very much worse than the last 2 seasons. At the midway point, we saw they were 0-6. They ended the season. I mean, they won 5 games. That's, I guess, an improvement since midseason. You see the Packers take the division. Lions finish in second. The Vikings finish in third. Chiefs have the best record in the league at 14-3. Falcons are up there. And the Chargers, Packers, Jets. Some new teams starting to kind of hit the top of the league and having the best records in the league, as we see the Bears finish with the second worst record in the league. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stats of Caleb Williams. 22-6, so kind of similar numbers to what he did last season. Under 3,000 passing yards this season, which I believe the first 2 seasons he went over. Swift had another pretty good year. Caleb Williams, 743 yards. So Williams' rushing yards and rushing touchdowns have been very similar over the last couple seasons. Cole Kmet, the leading receiver. Man, they really spread the ball around, though. A lot of people with touchdowns for the Bears this season. Let's go ahead. They were 24th in offensive yards. Let's look defensively. So they were kind of mid defensively, not that great. So kind of bottom of the league in offense, middle of the league in defense. So they're going in the wrong direction. we'll just say that. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at awards, even though again I don't think he will win any, but as we see, Joe Burrow wins MVP. CeeDee Lamb is just on a tear, winning Offensive Player of the Year again. Best QB, Jordan Love. Caleb Williams finishes 5th for Best QB. Wow, okay. Well, year 3, a step in the wrong direction. All right, so as we enter year 4 here, let's go ahead and take a look at the Bears roster. As we see here, Caleb Williams up to an 87. Still a star dev, but gaining an overall still slightly here. Still have Swift here. DJ Moore is still the wide receiver 1. Still have Cole Kmet on the offense. We will see where the Bears stand at the midway point of the season. Okay, so as we see here, Bears are 4-3, which is much better than what they were last season at 0-6. So they're kind of coming back on the right track here, but Let's check out the standings as we see the Panthers 5-1, leading the league, and the Bears sitting at 15, which again is a lot better than what they were last year. So let's take a look at the stats and see what Caleb Williams is doing. Only 5 passing touchdowns, 5 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. I mean, that's kind of been the narrative, is Caleb Williams just not producing that great offensively. He's just not throwing that many touchdowns. As we see, let's look at stats again here and just compare to the rest of the league here. Like, Mahomes is 22 touchdowns and 2 picks. So Caleb Williams, only 5 touchdowns. He's just not, the Bears are just not producing offensively, and it's just not helping their case. But, I mean, it's only midseason. Let's see if they can go ahead and turn it around and make their first playoff appearance under Caleb Williams. Okay, so as we see here at the end of year 4 for Caleb Williams, the Bears are yet again 8-9, which is the same record that they had the first year of Caleb Williams. So, to be fair, it is an improvement from last year. As last year we saw they were 5-12, but still not good enough to make the playoffs. As we see, they are sitting 18th, which is about where they have been throughout the tenure of Caleb Williams so far. So let's go ahead and see the stats of what Caleb Williams ended up doing. Again, very similar numbers to his last couple seasons. 22 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, just missing the 3,000 passing yard mark by 1 yard. Unfortunate, but a little bit less rushing yards than what we've usually seen out of him, and similar rushing touchdowns. So he is still producing running the ball, but it's just passing is not on the level of other quarterbacks. As we see here, Patrick Mahomes, 47 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, almost 5,000 passing yards. Just to compare, we are not seeing the offensive production out of Caleb Williams so far in his tenure. As we see, Patrick Mahomes is your MVP. Take a look at the NFC Offensive Player of the Year. Finally, somebody that is not CeeDee Lamb. Caleb Williams, 9th. Let's go ahead and take a look at Best QB. As we see, Caleb Williams 5th, which I believe that is where he was last year as well. Okay, Caleb Williams' 5th and final year is upon us. Let's take a final look at the roster for the Chicago Bears going into Williams' final year. Caleb Williams starting the year at an 88 overall. Let's go ahead and just take a look at him and his ratings. Let's see here. We still have Swift. DJ Moore is still here. Cole Kmet is still here. A lot of the band is back together for Caleb Williams' final season in this run. So let's go ahead and sim to the midseason point and see what happens, see where the Bears fall. Alright, so at the midway point, not a spectacular start, but we've seen them in this position before. as we see that they are 3-4 to start off the year here at the midway point, with the best record in the league being held by the Rams and the Browns. So let's see where the Bears are. 17th, kind of similar to where they've been the last couple seasons. Let's go ahead and check on our boy Caleb Williams. 9 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So he is finally starting to throw more touchdowns here at the midway point of his 5th season. As we see, DeAndre Swift is not really being used to score touchdowns, at least. Receiving, DJ Moore, our number 1 receiver. Our rookie receiver, first round pick that they drafted, is being used a lot. Cole Kmet, obviously a favorite target of Caleb Williams, as we have seen. Our first round pick from a couple years ago. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if he was a first round pick, but I know he was a high pick from a couple years ago. But sitting 25th in offensive yards, so the offense just not being able to click, and 23rd on the defensive side of the ball. So all this defensive help that they have been trying to get in the draft is not helping. So let's go ahead and upgrade these players, and after that we will sim to the end of the season, and we will see if the Bears can get their first playoff appearance under Caleb Williams. Wow, and as we see here, the Bears finish 4-13. At the midway point, they were 3-4. So they only won one more game since the midway point. Wow. And as we see here, the rest of the NFC North did amazing, as the Vikings win the division at 12-5. Packers and Lions both 11-6. What went wrong? What went wrong? Let's go ahead and check on Caleb Williams here, who had a down year offensively, to say the least. Went over 3,000 yards, but only 18 touchdown passes and 6 interceptions. Touchdown total is down from the last couple years that we have seen. Rushing wise, again, the rushing yards are down, and rushing touchdowns are down as well. But wow, they were, 3-4 at the midway point is not great, but it's not terrible either. Still plenty of time to turn it around, but they do not turn it around here and finish the season 4-13, which is their worst record that they have had under Caleb Williams. Let's go ahead and we'll check the awards. As we see here, Prescott is your MVP. CeeDee Lamb is back as your Offensive Player of the Year. Best QB, Dak Prescott, with... Wow, Caleb Williams is way down on the list here, not even in the top 10. As we see, the last couple seasons he has been about middle of the pack there. So just an overall down year for Caleb Williams in his final season here. So, to recap here, this is the end of year 5 for Caleb Williams. The best record for Caleb Williams was year 2 at 9-8. Had a couple seasons at 8-9. Had one season at 5-12 in the middle there. But to end it out here, as we see, the Bears finished 4-13, which is the worst record under the Caleb Williams era. But let's go ahead, and we are going to do the exact same thing here with Justin Fields and see if the results change, if at all. Again, also, Caleb Williams doesn't win any awards, no playoff appearances whatsoever. But let's go and check out Justin Fields now. Alright, so as we see here, we are in a fresh new league. Let's go ahead and check what we are working with here. As we see, Justin Fields is the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears. I went ahead and adjusted his contract to make it a little bit more realistic if they were to have re-signed him or gave him an extension and kept him. But as we see here, the stats that we are working with, which for Justin here, starting off at a 78 overall. I did go ahead and I added the man, Marvin Harrison Jr., As we see here, I made him a star dev. I know he's not, probably wouldn't be a star dev, but like Caleb Williams, I didn't want to make him an X factor just to kind of make it a little bit more balanced. As we see here, the stats of Marvin Harrison Jr., because if they wouldn't have traded Justin Fields earlier today and have gone the route of drafting Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. would have been a receiver for Justin Fields. So we'll put him in there and we'll give Justin Fields that target. So all right, without further ado, let's get Fields' first season underway here and see where they stand at midseason. All right, so at the midway point here for the first year under Justin Fields with this new and improved Bears roster, we see that they are not doing that great. We see that currently they are 2-5 to start off the year, which is not great at all. Bills at 6-1, 49ers 5-2, Chiefs 6-1. As your top records in the league, so let's see where the Bears currently stand, which is 29th in the league. So not a great start in the Justin Fields era here. Let's go ahead and check out the stats. As we see here, not great for Fields at 6 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Again, kind of similar to what we saw out of Caleb Williams his first year. Swift, only 1 rushing touchdown. Fields, obviously, we know he likes to run the ball, so 332 yards and 3 touchdowns receiving wise. Harrison is getting some targets, second most targets on the team, but first in yards, no touchdowns, but Justin Fields isn't really throwing that many touchdowns. So not a great start for Justin Fields' first season here. So let's go ahead. Actually, let me choose my draft class before I forget to do that. So I will go ahead and do this, and then we will sim to the end of Justin Fields' first season. All right, so at the end of year 1 for Justin Fields, we see the Bears finish with a 6-11 record. And again, at the bottom of the NFC North, let's go ahead and see where they finished. The Ravens actually have the best record in the league. So let's go ahead and see. So they finished 25th, which is obviously not great. 6-11, which, comparing it to Caleb Williams, in his first year, they finished 8-9. Let's go ahead and check. Wow, they got blown out by the Packers in the final game there. But let's go ahead and check the stats here. So we got 21 touchdowns here for Justin Fields and 14 interceptions. Not great. But again, kind of similar to what we saw out of year 1 for Caleb Williams. Over 3,000 passing yards here for Justin Fields. Rushing 712 yards and 7 touchdowns. Like I said, very, very similar stats to what we saw out of Caleb Williams. DJ Moore ended up being the number 1 receiver with only 746 yards. And Marvin Harrison Jr., only 1 touchdown for him. Again, don't think there will be any awards here for Fields, but just to make sure. Yes, Justin Fields actually finishes 10th in best QB in the NFC. But that is about it. We will go ahead and check out the roster here. As we see, Fields is up to an 80. Still has Swift here, obviously, and Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison. I think Harrison went up an overall or 2 as well. And we have Everett and Komet here still. So offense is still here. They have a good chance, hopefully, of having a good record at the midseason point. So let's go ahead and sim to midseason and we will see where they stand in the standings. Wow, okay, so here at the midway point of the season, the Bears are currently 1-6. Not great at all here at the midway point, which we did see Caleb Williams at one point. At the midway point, they were 0-6, but here we see they are 1-6. Let's look at the standings. Cowboys at the top. I assume the Bears at the bottom. Not the worst record in the league. Giants have that, but they are 1-6. Last in the NFC North. Let's go ahead and check out the stats. For Fields, 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. As we see, 301 rushing yards, no rushing touchdowns. They are using Swift a little bit more. Keelan Allen, your number one receiver for the Bears. Harrison, 2 touchdowns, 16 catches, 200 yards. So, like we've seen with these quarterbacks, they're just not producing offensively that well. I mean, these are not bad numbers, but they're not numbers that are going to get you to the playoffs. So let's go ahead and sim to the end of the season, and let's see if the Bears can turn it around or not. All right, so as we see here, they finish 6-11, so this exact same record as last season, so no improvements at all. Let's see where they ended up finishing. As we see the Ravens here, 15-2 with the best record in the league. As we see the Bears finishing 28th, so no improvement, no decline at all. Just stayed the same. Let's go ahead and check the stats of Fields. 26 passing touchdowns. Now those are better numbers. 26-7, over 3,000 passing yards again. Those are better numbers, but again, not enough to lead them to a playoff berth. As we see here, DeAndre Swift, 10 rushing touchdowns, and Khalil Herbert as well, 10 rushing touchdowns. Fields, not many rushing touchdowns, but had a decent amount of rushing yards. As we see here, Keenan Allen still stayed the number one receiver for the Bears. Marvin Harrison Jr., 4 touchdowns, 580 yards, 39 catches. Not that great either out of him, but let's see, they ranked actually 11th in offensive yards, which I think is the best ever since I started looking at this. It is the best that we have seen, and 16th it looked like in defensive yards. So not bad. That's honestly the best I think I've noticed, unless Williams had it the first couple of years, but I don't remember. I wasn't really looking at this at that point, but let's go ahead and see if Fields gets any awards. Looks like Lamar Jackson is your MVP. CeeDee Lamb's just going on a tear in both leagues. No Justin Fields there. Let's take a look at best QB as Fields finishes 5th. So a very similar story to what we saw out of Caleb Williams, finishing about middle of the pack for best QB for the first couple of years before obviously Caleb Williams had a down year in his 5th year. But I mean, offense looks good. They look okay here at the end. Let's go ahead and sim. Even though their record was 6-11, there is some promise here, hopefully for next season. Okay, so the start of year 3 for Fields. Let's go ahead and check out the roster. As I believe that they lost. Oh no, they actually did bring back Keenan Allen for another year. DJ Moore is still here, the wide receiver 1. Let's take a look at Fields. Here's Fields up to an 81. Not really improving. Seems like every year he's kind of just going up 1 overall or so. So let's go ahead and sim to mid-season, and hopefully the record at the middle of the season this season will be better than what it has been the previous seasons. All right, as we see here at mid-season, the Bears are 2-5. So just the past couple years, not great at all at the mid-season. Let's go ahead and see where they currently stand. Probably again similarly at the end, as we see the Ravens here are 7-0 at midseason. The Bears are currently 26th in the league record wise, so not good, not good at all. Let's go ahead and check Justin Fields' stats, and again, not great. Only 6 passing touchdowns. And we see this is a trend. We saw it was a trend with Caleb Williams. We saw it's obviously a trend with Justin Fields, just not being able to pass for touchdowns. As we see here, Swift with 3 touchdowns. Fields kind of down numbers so far with the rushing yards. Harrison Jr. With the most receiving yards on the team. No touchdowns though. As we see Keenan Allen with 3 touchdowns. DJ Moore being used probably the least out of those 3. And yeah, it's just, as we've seen again, just not being able to throw for touchdowns with either one, to be honest. So, I mean, they're 2-5. They go up against 0-7 Giants. Let's go ahead and sim to the end of the season, see if they can turn it around or not. All right, as we see here, for the 3rd year in a row, the Bears finished 6-11. They're just not able to get over that hump. As we see here, though, the 88 overall, 87 defense, 87 overall, and they finished 6-11. Let's check the final standings. As we see, I believe that the Packers won the NFC North this season. Let's go ahead and see where the Bears ranked. They are currently, or they finished 26th in the league record-wise. Let's go ahead and check the stats of Justin Fields. 19 touchdowns, so a down year for Fields. Only 2,660 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Rushing wise, as we see here, 752 rushing yards for Fields, 5 rushing touchdowns. Down rushing touchdown year for Swift, but we see Roschon got the majority of those. Receiving wise, Keenan Allen, again, your number 1 receiver for the Bears. Harrison second, only 2 touchdowns, so they're not really utilizing him. But again, Fields isn't really throwing that many touchdowns. Let's go ahead and check the yearly awards. As we see, Jalen Hurts here is your MVP. NFC Offensive Player of the Year is Jalen Hurts. No Justin Fields. Let's go ahead and check Best QB. Justin Fields finishes 8th, so he is on the list, even though he did have a down year. But just consistently 3 years now for the Bears, 6-11. So they aren't improving. They aren't really getting worse either. But something is going to have to turn around here if they would like to make the playoffs here. All right, so year 4 of Justin Fields and Harrison is underway. Let's go ahead and check in on both of them and see how they are doing. As we saw the last couple of seasons, the Bears finished 6-11 exactly the last 3 seasons. So can this year be any different? As we see, Justin Fields has gone up, I believe, another overall. Let's check in on Harrison, sitting at an 86, so he is steadily increasing as well. DJ Moore and Keenan Allen still here. Cole Kmet still here. So again, offense is still staying here. Although in this simulation they have kept Keenan Allen, whereas in Caleb Williams' simulation they did get rid of him. But I mean, let's see if they can break the streak of going 6-11. Hopefully it happens, but let's sim the midseason and see where they stand. Well, at the midseason point here, and we see nothing has changed. The Bears are 2-5. Who would have seen this coming? I don't know. But let's go ahead and check the stats for Justin Fields. Only 3 touchdown passes, which is by far the worst we have seen at the midseason point for either quarterback. 3 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. Rushing wise, not great. 280 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Let's go ahead and check receiving. Keenan Allen, your leading receiver for the Bears. Harrison in third. But man, 3 touchdowns only for Justin Fields here at the midway point. What is his. He's only completing 58% of his passes, which is, I mean, not great, not good at all, but they are currently sitting at 2-5. Still plenty of time to turn it around. But what are the odds that they go 6-11 again? I guess what we'll see is Cowboys are your number 1 team in the league so far. Let's go ahead and just check where the Bears currently are, which is probably near the end, up 28th. I mean, it's like they're playing on repeat. 2-5, I think, has been their record, except like one season where they were like 1-6. But other than that, 2-5 has kind of been where they have been sitting at. I mean, without further ado, I guess let's sim to the end of the season and see if they finish 6-11 for the 4th straight year in a row, or if they can break that curse and turn it around, or be worse than what they have been. Wow. Okay, so we have our first different year besides 6-11. The Bears finish 8-9. It's a miracle. They break the 6-11 streak, but still finish dead last in a division tied with the Vikings, and the Packers and Lions are finished 10-7, tied for first. I guess technically the Lions win, but they didn't finish 6-11. It's an improvement in my book. Finish 8-9, which is still not good, but I mean, hey, they did improve. Justin Fields finished with terrible stats, barely over 2,000 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, which is by far the worst stat line I think we have seen so far. 804 rushing yards, though, however, and 6 rushing touchdowns, which is pretty good. Receiving wise, Harrison only 3 touchdowns. They're not really using Harrison at all. But, I mean, I think it's kind of stemming from the quarterback play. Let's go ahead and see where they ended up finishing in the league. After being 8-9, they finished 21st, which is the best they have finished under Fields. Let's go ahead and check the awards. Even though if Fields wins any awards with these kind of stats, I will be shocked. Wow, Josh Jacobs for the Packers, winning Offensive Player of the Year. Let's go ahead and check Best QB. Fields finishes 9th. Wow, okay. Maybe probably because of his rushing stats, but definitely wasn't because of his passing stats. I will go ahead and say that. But we do see an improvement out of the Bears and Justin Fields in Fields' 4th year with the Bears, but still no playoffs. All right, folks. Well, this is the final year of the Justin Fields experiment. Year 5, I mean, it comes down to this. It has not been great for Justin Fields. I mean, last season was an improvement. They finished 8-9, but still have yet to make the playoffs. Will this year be any different? Well, let's go ahead and check the NFL roster and see what we will be working with here. Justin Fields up to an 84, which I think that was similar to what he was last year. If anything, he went up only 1. Let's go ahead and check Harrison, who is now the past Keenan Allen, at an 87 overall. But Keenan Allen is still here, which we did not see in the Caleb Williams league. Cole Kmet obviously still here. Well, I mean, it's the final season. We have still yet to see either quarterback make a playoff appearance. Let's go ahead and sim to midseason and see if this year will be any different for the Justin Fields led Chicago Bears. Well, folks, you can't make this up, man. You can't make it up. The Bears 0-7 at the midseason point, which is we saw an 0-6 with Caleb Williams, 0-7 now with Justin Fields. Let's just take a look at the damage and see what is going on. Fields, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, which is better than what we saw at the midway point last season, but their record is way worse. Rushing wise, Justin Fields 337 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. Receiving wise, DJ Moore is your number 1 receiver for the Bears. Harrison only 1 touchdown. We just haven't really seen them use Harrison at all. But man, 0-7, which is the worst record that we have seen so far. Like I mentioned, we did see an 0-6 with Caleb Williams, but 0-7 to start off the year of year 5. We see the Saints here actually with the best record in the league. I am assuming the Bears are dead last, in which they are. Well, they need a drastic turnaround if we want any chance of making the playoffs under the Justin Fields era here. But I mean, let's just go ahead and sim to the playoffs and see what happens. Well, year 5 has come to a close, and we have received our worst record throughout this video and live stream here. 1-16. By far our worst record that we have seen. The last closest was 4-13, but 1-16 to end out the Justin Fields era here after these 5 years. So, I mean, it's just 1-16. I can't believe that, to be honest. I mean, they're an 84 across the board, which is not bad at all. But for them to finish 1-16 is just crazy to me. But I mean, I suppose let's go ahead and see the final stats for Justin Fields in year 5, as he only finishes with 15 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Again, another bad year passing for Justin Fields. Let's check out his rushing stats. 823 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Let's check out Harrison just because we're here. Again, not great, but again, I think it's mainly quarterback play. But yeah, I mean, not a great way to end his tenure here. Let's just go ahead and take a look at the awards. Josh Allen is your MVP. Let's go ahead and check this. Jalen Hurts is your Offensive Player of the Year, Best QB. Fields is not even on the list. Honestly, that doesn't surprise me. But, I mean, ranked dead last in offensive yards and second to last in defensive yards. Just a terrible year overall for the Bears.
So just to recap here, Caleb Williams went 8-9 in his first year. Then in his year 2, he ended up going 9-8. Year 3, 5-12. Year 4, 8-9, and year 5, 4-13 for a total of 34 wins and 51 losses. There was no playoff appearances for Caleb Williams and no awards for Caleb Williams. On the other hand, the final results for Justin Fields included 6-11 seasons for the first 3 years. Year 4, he went 8-9, and year 5, he went 1-16 for a total of 27 wins and 58 losses. Again, no playoff appearances for Fields and no awards for Fields. So that will about wrap it up for this video. If you guys did enjoy, consider clicking that subscribe button as well as that like button. And I will see you guys in the next video.